Russia's reaction to the American attack on Venezuela, the capture of President Nicolas Maduro, and the sudden move by President Trump to take control of Venezuelan oil has surprised the world, not because Moscow condemned it, but because Vladimir Putin has remained largely silent. For many years, Venezuela was one of Russia's closest partners in Latin America. Moscow invested billions in oil, weapons, and financial support to keep Maduro in power. Yet now, during the biggest shock to Caracas and the most aggressive US action in the region in decades, Putin has responded with only short statements and diplomatic comments, avoiding direct confrontation. One major reason behind Putin's silence is that Russia's priorities have shifted. The war in Ukraine dominates the Kremlin's attention, money, and military power. Getting into a loud fight with the United States over Venezuela would open another front Russia cannot afford. Putin knows that absorbing military pressure from Washington in two different regions at the same time could weaken Russia's position in Europe, where it truly matters for the Kremlin's survival. So instead of shouting, Moscow watches carefully and calculates its moves. Another factor is military reality. Although Russia once flew planes to Venezuela and signed defense deals, it does not have the strength to challenge American forces in the Western Hemisphere, the US backyard. Putin does not want to make threats he cannot enforce. Silence here is not weakness. It is strategic discipline. Moscow understands that any attempt to send troops or ships would trigger overwhelming US retaliation and possibly NATO involvement. Putin cannot protect Maduro even if he wants to, so he avoids saying things that might expose Russia's limits. Diplomacy is also playing a big role. Trump's return to power opened a door that Putin wants to keep at least slightly open. If Putin attacks Trump verbally over Venezuela, he risks losing the chance to negotiate sanctions relief, prisoner exchanges, or future agreements linked to Ukraine and energy markets. For Russia, it is far smarter to let diplomacy breathe than to slam the door shut. So even while Russian officials criticize foreign interference, Putin avoids personally attacking Trump, preserving room for future talks. Finally, Putin's silence reflects a painful geopolitical truth. Losing Maduro means losing influence in Latin America, especially in global oil networks. But the Kremlin knows that shouting will not bring Maduro back. Instead, Russia is now waiting for an opportunity. Perhaps a new Venezuelan leader more open to Moscow, or a US mistake that causes backlash in the region. Putin hopes time will provide new openings without Russia, risking a direct clash with the United States. In the end, silence may seem passive, but it is a cold, strategic decision. Putin is avoiding a fight he cannot win, guarding Russia's strength for the battles he considers more important. While the world watches Venezuela, Moscow is thinking long-term, protecting its power, saving its resources, and waiting for the next move on the global chessboard.